This next story is a interesting one, and it's one that that Crispy Bomb himself actually found. Now, let me just pull it. Let me just pull up who. Okay, so there is a YouTuber. His name is the Canadian guy. He is a Spyro and Crash type of content creator, and he has a pretty big, well-known YouTube. So I'm going to bring up his account right now and tell you exactly how many subs this guy has. I've seen several of his videos. He is sitting at, and this is no joke, 83.9 thousand subscribers. He does videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays. He streams Thursdays and Fridays, and he does daily shorts. His, he's a platformer guy, which is why I fell in love with his content, because he's funny and he's very candid about being a platform guy. And what's interesting is he has been recognized by Toys for Bob. He's actually sat down with them in person and in interviews, which is how I found out who this guy was. Well, he put out a post that Crispy sent me, and he sent a DM that I thought was very interesting. And Canadian guy goes on to say this, ladies and gentlemen. According to a new headliner for the actual Crash Bandicoot account, it's been updated. It says, "I don't chase trends, I crash them." So he asks, Crash updated their Twitter bio. Why? Now, look, Toys for Bob has been, they went and started doing their own thing. They took themselves away from being owned by Microsoft, and they're independent again. Good for that studio. Toys for Bob are amazing creators. And they've been teasing that they're not only working on something, they're also working on something with Xbox, right? So they have two projects they're doing. Now, for one reason or another, their first project that they're working on, they keep showing purple, which makes all of us, at least for me, as a platform freak, a new Spyro. Freaking yes, please. I will take a new Spyro, a new modern Spyro, because I don't know if anyone played it, or you should download it if you're a fan of platformers. The Spyro collection is freaking amazing. The game looks astoundingly good. Crash, I'm gonna be honest with you folks, not the biggest Crash fan. I don't like the controls. I've never liked the controls. I've always hated having to run forward rather than a traditional open world platformer, or at least a side scroller. I know not all of his games are like that. I can take them or leave them. Usually I leave them. But Crash Team Racing, ladies and gentlemen, that's a horse of another color, because like Mario Kart, listen, folks, gonna be 55 at the end of the month. I'm a big old nerd. I love platformer characters. That's what I grew up on, right? So Crash Team Racing is an incredible series. And so if you've been following the channel for a long while, and Crispy and Fuzzy are knowing where I'm going where I'm going with. So again, this is one of those instances, folks, walk with me on this, right? The thing that drives me crazy about being an Xbox fan is seeing games that exist like Mario Kart that celebrate all of their characters in the game, or games like Smash Brothers, for instance, right? Now, not all Smash Brother type games work, because obviously we saw that happen with the WB game, and they had a bunch of really incredible characters in there. Scooby-Doo's fighting Batman, ridiculous, but somehow it worked, and that game doesn't exist anymore. So where I'm going with this, ladies and gentlemen, is, when Crispy sent me this and I saw Canadian guy's post, in my mind, I immediately say, well, wait a second. We know, at least we think we know, that Toys for Bob is working on a Spyro game. Awesome, right? But they're also working exclusively with Xbox on what they called a dream Project. Now that's coming directly from Toys for Bob, ladies and gentlemen. So when I saw that the Crash Team Racing thing was updated, I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. I personally have been asking for Playground Games, or at the time, Turn 10 Studios, and Fuzzy will appreciate this. We've talked about this, Fuzzy, to make a Mario Kart-esque type of racer with all of the incredible IP that Xbox has at their disposal, right? You can have, and again, I this is $1 million idea. How this doesn't exist to this day, folks, is bonkers to me, because I think it is, and I hate putting on the business hat. Don't throw the virtual tomatoes, folks, but again, walk with me on this. A game, a racer, a free-to-play Xbox racer that would be on every platform, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, could be their next big gas game, right? You know, you get free updates, sure, of course. You know, free update with levels, with tracks. You know, this month we're celebrating the anniversary of Fallout, so there's 3 new Fallout tracks. You know, one in Fallout New Vegas, one in Fallout 4, one in the Fallout 76 Fallout. Oh my God, that's amazing. But there are skins for cars, and I know people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, that's gross." Not really. It's the business, folks. So I'm trying to come at this from a nerd 101 and businessman 101. Put them together, perfect sandwich, right? So when Crispy sent me this, I said, when Toys for Bob, Crispy said Dream Project, and they updated the Crash Racing thing. Could you imagine if the new Crash Racing is one that has all of the Xbox characters in this racer? Why not? And again, maybe this isn't the topic that's going to make you subscribe to the channel or not, but the news has been a little light this week. So, this is, again, it's interesting to me. I'm hoping that it's interesting to some people in the chat. Crispy, let's talk about this, because, again, this is a great find. And I don't see anyone talking about this. Now, granted, it is small breadcrumbs, but Canadian guy, he has his pulse on this stuff, and I've been following him for a while, and his content is pretty good when it comes to talking about Crash, talking about Spyro. It's his thing, and he's closing in on 100. On his Twitter page, it's the road to 100K. This guy's gonna hit it. I think he's onto something. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I just, sometimes I'm just scrolling and I see something and I'm like, that's interesting. And it's, they could release just another Crash, but I don't know. I don't feel like they ever like to do that either. Why change it? Those are the questions. Like, oh, they just felt like changing it. Generally, there's always something, when there's smoke, there's fire. And it's like, well, why are they caring all of a sudden? You could also ask that question. So, I've seen Xbox like doing stuff like this once in a while. Necessarily who's running the social media page and whatnot. But the thing people will probably go and say, oh, why would they put, all these characters on these other platforms? And I say, because they're already doing it. So let's not act like they couldn't say, okay, and then, if PlayStation doesn't want to play ball and put Kratos or something like that on Xbox, it'd be like, okay, well, we'll just, you get that, and then Nintendo can have this. But in realism, like, Microsoft really don't care. Xbox really doesn't care about that anymore. I mean, we've established that over and over again. So it's definitely, it would be logical, because then you're not talking about just, you're talking about millions and millions of people that would potentially purchase it. And, it would be logical to do it. Could it be a nothing burger? Sure. But in realism, that's the perfect platform to really say, okay, it's an established IP. And in realism, Crash was associated always with PlayStation. And it's one of those. He's one of those agnostic characters that you could really play ball in any of the platforms and have characters. I mean, could they say, okay, and then we release a Nintendo version that has? I mean, these are sellable moments. Like you putting on the business hat really is not illogical, because you could say, okay, $10 DLC, and for people on Xbox, oh, I got it in Game Pass, so all right, why not? And it's just a MAU model that could work for a game that has been kind of mulled over for years. Give it some new life. And we were used to these moments where they would do games, like Nintendo had that model and people copied it, and like it would be like a Crash, and then a new Crash Team Racing, and then another Crash for a span of time, and then all of a sudden everything's like, okay, we're gonna dial it back. And maybe it'll bring some new audience to the IP that maybe haven't looked at it in a long time.
I mean, it's a great point. And again, folks, this is where the business side of gaming comes out. And a lot of us don't like, the free to play model. A lot of people don't like the fact that, gas games exist. That's the business, ladies and gentlemen. And look, I'm going to be honest. If a game needs to, okay, hold on a sec. If a game's existence has to be, because it has to, it's DNA has to change from being the traditional, there are only so many Mario Karts, right? Like Mario Kart, if you didn't know, Mario Kart World, is it worth $80? As much as I absolutely love it, the answer is it's not. But did that stop people from buying the game? It's, folks, the attach rate on the Nintendo Switch and the launch title of Mario Kart World is freaking nearly 1-to-1. It's astounding, right? How that works with Nintendo products. I don't have an answer for it. It's the Nintendo magic. Nerds like me exist. We continue to buy stuff. We know it's wrong, but we love it and we buy it and we have fun with it. I'm having a blast playing with Tyler. We're searching for all of the outfits right now. Of course, he found them all before me, because that's the kid he is. He's helping me get all the outfits, the old man, if you could imagine. But something like Crash Team Racing, would it sell? Is the question, Fuzzy. I think it would sell, because it's Crash. He's popular enough, and obviously, I mean, look, you have a Sonic Racer coming out, which, by the way, folks, please, for the love of Joe, go play that game. The demo's up right now. There's a new demo, I think, coming on the 17th. I don't know how different it's going to be, but I actually have footage of it, and it's freaking phenomenal. As a matter of fact, you know what? Now we're talking about it. I probably should have done this before, but let me just see if I could find it and just throw it in there for you folks, just in case you haven't seen it. Where is it here? Oh my god, I don't have it here. I'll find it in a second. But Fuzzy Belvedere, look, I don't know if there's anything to this. I don't know if there is a 1-to-1. The reason why I wanted to bring it up in conversation simply is because the YouTuber known as the Canadian Guy knows his stuff. He's a platformer guy. He doesn't make these posts for just simple engagement. He's asking a legitimate question. They did update it. Toys for Bob did say they're working with Xbox on what they called a dream project. Well, Xbox owns Crash Bandicoot, right? We know that because it was a part of the Activision deal. The one thing we can say with a stout point in mind is Xbox is always looking for the next big gas game, right? They want to make money on these things. We also know that their games are all going multi-plat, and Crash Bandicoot going multi-plat to Nintendo and to Steam and to PlayStation, no brainer there. But if you were going to reinvent the wheel, pun and totally intended, with bringing a new racer, a new Crash racer, which, by the way, was beloved by millions of people, it sold very well for them. teaming up with Toys for Bob, who helped make that game, right? And then you bring that game forward, and it's more than just another clone or copy of Crash Team. It is a game that's going to potentially celebrate and have multiple boards and tracks in the worlds of Xbox owned IP.
I have some context, gentlemen.
Please, by all means.
Next year is the 30th anniversary of the original Crash.
See, that this is what we love having you a part of the show, brother.
Yep. So it was released on September 9th, 1996.